This episode is sponsored by Edge Studios. Episode 48 of the Board Game Geek podcast, where we geek out about board games, the mechanisms behind them, and the people who create them. I'm your host, Candice Harris, and I am so stoked to be here today with Grant Lyon, who's again, this is second week in a row that I have someone in the room with me. It's wild that it worked out that way. But Grant is one of the funniest board gamers I know, who also happens to have the coolest glasses and the coolest mustache and the coolest hat that showcases his glasses and mustache, even though you're not wearing it today.
I'm not wearing that particular hat, yes.
How's everything going, Grant?
Good, thank you. That's very high praise. Now I feel really bad that people listening to this can't see my sweet mustache and my sweet glasses.
Oh, they'll see you on the front page of BGG
All right,
for a bit.
Nice, sweet.
Yo, what's new on your end? I know you do comedy, you do stand-up comedy. I've seen some of your board game stand-up comedy, which is awesome. And I know you love board games. I know you love party games. But what else? Is comedy your full-time thing? Or
Yeah. So I've been a comedian for coming on 20 years. January will be my 20-year anniversary. Pretty wild.
Awesome.
I started doing it when I was in college, and that's when I say 20 years, that's when I started doing open mics and stuff like that. So it takes a while to get good and
rolling
to get
in the dough and doing it full time.
Yeah. I probably became a real professional comedian in 2012.
Cool.
Something like that. I started doing a ton of colleges in 2012, I was the most booked college comedian in the country.
That's
so that
awesome.
Yeah.
So what came first? Your love of board games or the comedy passion?
Comedy. So,
okay.
And that's one of the things that's interesting because during the pandemic is when I started making videos about the board games I was playing. I loved board games before that, and we would host a monthly game night for comedians and things like that, but I wasn't making anything about them. And I did it kind of as a writing exercise during the pandemic. I was I wonder if I could write an hour of stand-up about board games. Just to kind of as a creative outlet. I didn't really expect to do much with it. And then I got asked to host an online board game convention. And I was
whoa.
I'll do it if you let me try 5 minutes of jokes at the start of every session. And they were
cool.
Sure. And people were writing me being hey man, this is really funny. You should try this for real. And I was maybe
awesome.
I will do it at a convention or something.
That's
sometime.
Awesome.
Yeah. But it is funny where I've literally overheard people when I'm in the hallway outside of a show at a convention being some gamer's trying comedy. Let's go see if this is any good. And I'm well, no, I'm kind of a comedian that's trying games. It's kind of the other way around.
And you're designing a game now too, or just you
I
design
have
games?
one published and I have a new one coming out in November. Yeah, I've got my second one coming out.
Can you tell me about them? Because I didn't even know you had one published.
Sure, yeah, I had one published by 25th Century Games. It came out at the perfect time for party games in November 2020. It came out. So that's one of the reasons I think it didn't do the best, because it came out at literally a time where you couldn't have parties and stuff. But it was cool to get a game published and have it out there. It's the tagline for the game was a game of silly insults, dummy. And it was called Curmudgeon, and it's just about kind of mad-libbing dumb roast jokes.
Okay, all right.
It's really supposed to be more silly than it is mean.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
you're insulting each other, but they're dumb, ridiculous insults.
Gotcha.
You know?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then I have one coming out in November with Prolific Games, who does flapjacks and Sasquatches and some other good
I don't know those, but I like that title of the publishing company.
Well, wait till you get the load of the title of my game is I'm kind of a Big Dill, and it's real pickle themed.
Oh,
real pickle themed.
I love it. I love it.
So hopefully, yeah, it's a party game, but it's certainly like maybe a little bit more of a thinky party game. The one that it's gotten compared to, which is interesting because it's a game I love, but not a game that I thought of when we were working on this game, is Wavelength. Some people have we've had playtesters be like, oh, it feels, and I was like, oh,
that's cool.
Yeah, I guess the way the game works is essentially one player gets a prompt and everybody can see that prompt and you have to describe whatever that prompt is, but you have an exaggeration token. And so you have to, it might be like, the prompt might be like, describe how good you are at making paper airplanes. And you could have the truth, you could have +1, you could have +2, you could have +3, and you're just exaggerating your ability at doing this thing.
Wow, that's
and
cool.
people have to guess how much you're exagerating.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's silly.
I like
it's
it,
fun.
and I like the pickle theme too.
Yeah.
Prolific party game there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so are you excited about Gen Con?
Big time. You know,
Yeah.
it is both. I feel like Gen Con is like the worst best time you'll ever have in the sense that like you are so exhausted by the end of it,
Yeah.
but it's because you've had such a great time the whole time
Such
and
a
seen
great
so
time.
much and talked to so many people and done all that
Complete
stuff.
sensory overload,
Yeah.
right?
Last year, I was so exhausted on the final day, I forgot my badge in the Airbnb and I took like an Uber there. And I could have like taken the 5-minute Uber ride back to my Airbnb or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm buying a Sunday badge because
I thought you were going to say you just like walked in.
No, I just was like, it was like $20 for a Sunday badge. And I was like, yep, I would rather just spend $20 right now. And so the whole day, everybody would be like, are you only here Sunday only? Because my badge would say that. Yeah.
I had something kind of similar last year where, you know, how they make you wear the bracelets too, in addition to your badge.
Yeah.
I lost my bracelet fell off in like on the last day and I was like, oh my gosh, and I felt so sneaky because I was like, I'm just gonna walk in with the big crowd and nobody will notice.
Why are your hands in your armpits? They're very cold.
Yeah,
I'm very cold right now.
So cold. Well, you know, it's funny that like Gen Con's coming up and, you know, most people, including us, I'm sure, are like really excited about a bunch of new games.
Sure, yeah.
But I just decided recently to start a 10x10.
Nice.
Specifically so I could mostly play games that I've had for a while that I love that I just don't get to play that much. And it was inspired by an Etsy purchase because there's somebody who makes this like 3D printed board and he makes a like custom nameplates for the games and then the meeples you put every time. And I'm like, this seems like fun, like satisfying to like be like, how much progress am I making with this 10x10 and everything?
Yeah.
So do you want to hear the games on my 10x10?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Most of these were easy. A couple, you know, I went back and forth because I had several ideas and it was kind of hard to narrow it to 10. But I have The Great Zimbabwe on there.
Okay.
And that is at this point my favorite splatter game. And
I've never played that one.
Yeah, it is thinky. It's awesome. I'm pretty terrible at it, but it's like one of those games that you want to like keep playing so that you can get better at. But it's just something I love and I don't get to play that much. And I built a wooden insert for this game. So I have all these nice upgrades.
That's great.
And I just haven't played it.
Yeah.
So that's the first one.
Okay.
Concordia.
Okay.
Have you played Concordia?
No. Never have.
It's just like a classic. It's a banger. I've only played it once. I have like different boards for it for lower player counts. And it's just something that it's such...
I'm a big advocate of like going back and playing. Like it doesn't always have to be all the newest stuff. Like I just played Viticulture for the first time. I had it on my shelf of shame for like 4 years and I just had never played it. And I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to play this, you know, and I've played it like 3 or 4 times in the last couple of months.
Awesome. Now, do you have the Tuscany expansion?
I don't. No.
Oh, wait till you add Tuscany. Also, if you like co-op games, the Viticulture World expansion is
cool,
it's really cool. Yeah.
Nice.
It was like I didn't know how Viticulture would be co-op, but it's really well done. Another thing I need to play more is that expansion. But yeah, Viticulture is something I got into early because I think I found that it had a wine theme, and I'm like, that's super cool. And it's just always it's probably one I'll hold on to forever.
That's great.
But yeah, Concordia is just this like really clean design, really good game. I loved my first play of it. Player interaction, like classic. I want to play it more.
Sure.
Gaia Project.
Okay.
You know I like heavy games.
Yes.
So. Gaia Project.
Well, I like space themed games, so I'm curious about Gaia Project, even though it's probably too heavy for me.
And it's not as heavy as I don't know. Never mind. I have a different heavy palette than you.
Yeah, that is true.
It's not that bad, but yeah, it might be a little heavier than you'd like.
Yeah.
Spirit Island.
Okay.
Root.
Nice.
So with both of those two,
these are some real like classics on this list.
Yeah, because I buy all this stuff for these games and then I don't get a chance to explore it. So I'm forcing myself to explore it and I'm like so excited about it. Same with Gaia Project, like different asymmetric factions. So Root, then War Chest.
Oh, that's on my shelf of shame too. I really want
Shelf of Opportunity.
Yeah, sure. But I you know what? Even when people say that, I'm like, I know you still feel ashamed inside.
Like this game has been sitting here for years.
Yep.
It happens to us all, it seems. But yeah, War Chest is fantastic. Do you like abstract strategy?
I do, and I've long wanted to make a video about sort of chess alternatives, and part of the reason I haven't made that video because I know a bunch of other games that would be on there, and I'm like, I can't make this video until I play War Chest. I can't.
Specifically War Chest.
Yeah, that's because I know I would put like That Time You Killed Me would be on there.
I haven't played that. I heard that's
Shobu,
really good.
I think would be on like that. I have the other games I know that would be on there, and I'm like, well, I can't. It's incomplete if I don't play War Chest before that.
Well, maybe we'll play today after we're done recording. Another one is a game. I've been on an adventure game kick, and I discovered this game, Paupers Ladder.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
It has the most like charming art, and it's kind of. I mean, I've only played the base game of the first edition.
Sure.
But you have like a meeple, like this. They have these giant meeples. I love it. I'm gonna have to show this to you, but they have giant meeples, and then you have a little bird companion. And I know in the new version you're gonna actually have a wooden bird too, which is really cool. But in the original version, it's just like a disc, and you're kind of like on your turn, you're like moving your pauper, which is this giant meeple, and your bird, and you move them to different spaces, and then you can kind of explore.
Cool.
And you're basically racing your opponents to complete 3 virtues. But it's really fun, light, all these stories kind of develop. I've been enjoying it so far, so I put that on my list because I want to play it more. It's lighter and easier to get to the table. And whenever the second edition is available, I think in October, it'll have a solo mode, which I'm excited about.
Nice.
Then I had on my next one, PAX Premier.
Okay.
Because I love PAX Premier, and I always want to play it more. But I swapped it out with Too Many Bones.
Oh.
We'll talk about that more later.
Okay.
But
Nice.
And then HUANG is a Reiner Knizia game.
The sort of re-implementation of Yellow and Yangtze,
correct,
right?
Which is a re-implementation of Tigers and Euphrates.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm working on a video for it, and so I've been playing it, but I love it because I love these abstract strategy games, and especially like a 4-player. Well, I like 2-player too a lot, but like 4-player, it's just really good, and I love the look of it and everything too. So
nice.
I want to play that more. And then last one is a game called Kreel Manor.
I haven't heard of that one either.
Yeah, this is a new game coming out from a small company. Tristan Hall, I think, is the designer's name. I played a few of his other games, and they're just like awesome. And this one's a prequel to Veil Wraith, and I'm just really excited about it. Again, it's like a cooperative kind of, you can play it solo, but you could also play cooperative, and it's like a kind of fantasy themed adventure game, but it has really unique mechanisms too.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my 10 by 10.
You know, one of the things that I appreciate the most about you is that you do board games for a job, and yet you are still so excited and love games so much. Thanks. I feel the same way, but that's not everybody that works in board games, and so I really appreciate that about you.
Yeah, you're right. I'm still like so excited.
That's great.
By games,
I mean, that's the way I feel. I'm like, it's games. We're supposed to be having fun.
Yes.
You know?
Heck yeah. Well, thanks, Grant.
Yeah, of course.
All right, well, anyway, that's not why we're here today, right?
Sure.
Today, we're going to be talking about the Gen Con 2024 releases we're most excited to play.
Sure.
Now, we are recording this on July 24th because I want to have it all edited and ready to go for the Friday of Gen Con when we'll both be at Gen Con. So we had to kind of scramble to get our list together.
Yes.
In time.
I spent a bunch of time over the weekend doing research about it.
Me too. And even last night, I'm like still making changes and everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, before we get into our Gen Con 2024 releases that we're most excited to play, I'd love to hear what you've been playing lately, Grant. So let's jump into fresh plays.
Well, one that I'm going to talk about because it's one that I've been playing a lot in July. It is also going to release at Gen Con. So I'm not going to put this in my Gen Con videos, but know that I'm very excited for people to check this out at Gen Con.
Noted.
As well. It's River of Gold from Office Dog Games. Sometimes I think you respond to a game even more when you don't know that much about it and you play it and you're like, oh my God, this is great. Like, I did not know that much about River of Gold until the last 6 weeks or something like that. And I played it at Dice Tower East at the beginning of the month and just fell in love with it. And I've been playing it a bunch with my game group and stuff like that. We've talked a little bit already on this podcast about how I'm not like a crazy heavyweight gamer.
Right.
I think where my sort of wheelhouse is, the games that I love the most are games that have real strategy, real choices, play in 90 minutes or less, and each turn is quick. I don't have a lot of patience
for downtime
during games. I want there to be like real choices and strategy. Yes, I like party games, but I also like strategy games too. I just don't want to play something for 4 hours. I want to play something for 90 minutes, something like that. And River of Gold, I think does that really, really well. The things you're doing in the game, you are building buildings along a river. You're sailing your ship along that river. And when you stop at a place, you gain benefits of the buildings that have been built there. But the people that own those buildings also gain benefits. And then you also are getting resources and delivering to customers. Those customers are now cards that give you special abilities throughout the game and give you end game scoring. It looks gorgeous. They've done a lot of like nice gold foiling on the board and the box and all that sort of stuff. So it looks really pretty as well. But it's just one of those things where you can do one thing on your turn and it's gonna take you a couple minutes, and then it's the next person's turn, and you got a plan, but each turn
and you're
moves
in and
quick.
out in 90 minutes.
Yep. Yeah. And in fact, like you could play, if you're playing like a 2-player game of it, I bet you could knock it out in 45 minutes.
Wow.
At like 2 players, if both of you know what you're doing and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I checked this out, and I don't know if you were at what was it, like an Asmodee pre-Gen Con party last year. They were kind of showing it off. And I
must have ignored that completely because I have zero memory of ever seeing this game before. Yeah.
I saw it, and I think someone gave me a brief overview of it. And one of the things I really liked about it was the art, because it's the same world as Legends of the Five Rings,
yes,
right?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Where I love Battle for Rokugan. I don't know if you've ever played that one before.
I haven't.
But it has a similar style art. So I was already like, okay, I want to check this out. And honestly, it was almost on my list.
Okay.
But it didn't quite make it, but I'm glad you're enjoying it. Now I really want to try it.
It would be probably number 2 on my Gen Con hype list if I wasn't using it as my game that I've been playing. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that is River of Gold.
River of Gold.
Cool. Well, my first game that I'm going to talk about is why Too Many Bones just pushed out Pax Pamir on my 10x10.
Yeah, take that, Pax Pamir. Get out of here.
Too Many Bones Unbreakable.
Oh.
So that is the last chapter of the Too Many Bones saga, the last, the newest release in the Too Many Bones series. Chip Theory sent me a copy of the core game and also 2 of the new gear locks.
Okay.
And I've had it, and I'm like, I've had one friend that I'm like, who loves Too Many Bones, and they're like, we're going to play it. Oh, you're out of town. Oh,
yeah.
So for whatever reason, we hadn't been able to get it to the table until last weekend, and it was
that feels
magical.
Good.
Yeah. It was this is one of my favorite games, and it's just something I don't play that much. And not 5 minutes into it, I'm like, all those good, exciting feelings are coming back. So for people who don't know, Too Many Bones is an adventure cooperative game from Chip Theory Games. This version is a standalone expansion, so
and it has all of the dice.
Yes,
all of the dice.
So many bones. Yes. You're gonna be rolling so many bones. But yeah, Unbreakable came out in 2023, and it plays with 1 to 4 players. Although I don't recommend 4.
Okay.
3 is pushing it. We played with 3 the other day, and it was great. Cool. It took a little while, but it's so fun.
I don't know if you know the content creator Danny Standring.
Yeah.
But Too Many Bones is her favorite game of all time. And I keep trying to play it with her. I'm like, teach me. Please teach me this game. And we keep saying we're going to do it, and we haven't done it yet.
All right. Well, now, we have to take advantage of the fact that we're neighbors.
Yes,
and
please.
And it's on my 10x10, so
I would love
you're
to play
going to
it.
be one of those 10 plays.
It is on my shelf of opportunity as well.
Awesome. Well, in this game, basically everybody is going to take on the role of a gear lock, and all of these gear locks, they are characters. They are all so different, and they have their own set of these really nice custom skill dice that you'll be able to kind of level up as you play through these different encounters.
Nice.
And for example, my character that I played, my gear lock was Riffle, and Riffle comes with a deck of poker cards, and these are this deck of cards is really nice. Matt was saying, he's like, I'm gonna need to borrow those for poker night. They're
nice.
It's a really nice deck of cards. On top of, so everything Chip Theory does,
their production quality
premium.
is insane for sure.
But my character, my gear lock, I have this deck of poker cards, and on my player mat, I have part of that deck as my active deck, and then I have an out of play deck and a discard pile. And each turn I'm able to play combinations of cards to do cool stuff.
Nice.
And it's if I can play a full house, I'm going to get to activate the suit ability on all these cards. And so all of my skill dice to level up were doing things like letting me manipulate cards in my deck and other things I can't remember right now. But it was very cool. And then my friend Steven, who's the one I was trying to play this with forever, who loves it also, he was playing Figment, which is another new gear lock. And Figment is cool because Figment's dice, there's one that's inner peace, there's another that's transcendence, there's one that's perseverance. And he had a situation where he would like to take damage from baddies because that like kind of beefs him up, and he could then use his inner peace to do this and that. And it was like just super cool. And then Matt was Gale, and I don't remember exactly what the special abilities were, but it's just cool that there's so many different gear locks and they all play completely differently. And even if you played the same one, like game after game after game, you can level them up differently. So it will give you a different experience. And then you have like this battle mat. So you're doing these encounters. You'll love it because the encounters are funny.
Okay.
They're really creative and funny. Oh, speaking of, I think I was like almost wondering, did you write any of the jokes for it?
No, I did not in that one, but I do write stuff for games.
Yeah, so. That's cool. Grant was just telling me before we recorded that he writes some jokes for different games and everything.
Yeah, it's mostly like party games at this point. Like I mostly am writing like card prompts and things like that.
That's cool.
I would certainly be open to writing funny flavor text in a strategy game too and stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good to know. Well, like just as an example, each game of Too Many Bones, you're going to have a main tyrant that you're going to play against. And each standalone game of Too Many Bones has like, I don't know, like 8 different tyrants you can play. And then you have this deck of encounter cards. You're only going to use a small amount of them.
Sure.
So much variety. But we were playing against the tyrants called Rock and Roll, ROCK and ROL. And so everything related to them, like when we eventually got to the point where we could fight them, like one of them has a die that has a crowd surfing ability.
Nice.
There's an encounter called Towers and Powers. And they're just like all these, like they are.
Reminds me of Rocksteady, who are the bad guys in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
They have to fight.
I was like, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. Bebop and Rocksteady are the two bad guys.
That's right.
You know?
But yeah, it's just like there's so much fun. Like, and the other thing that's crazy that I love about this game that I'm realizing is that each battle map, regardless of which set you play, has like a 4x4 grid.
Cool.
But what they're able to do, or what they've done design-wise to make every battle feel different with that 4x4 grid is like wild.
Yeah.
And on Unbreakable, they have, instead of just having a neoprene mat that just has circles printed on it, you have holes in it, and you're going to be placing chips, because chip theory, every game has a bunch of poker chips. These chips that are rock on one side, lava on the other.
Oh, cool.
And so there are different things when you have encounters, like, oh, this is going to make this lava, and you're going to get damaged if you're standing on lava. And it was really neat. And for anyone who has played Too Many Bones Unbreakable, one issue that we were noticing a couple rounds in is your gear locks are going to be on top of these lava chips, and your gear lock is a stack of chips, like their main chip and then health chips. You can't see if it's rock or lava.
Oh.
So I ended up finding these like red gems, and so we would just put a gem on
anything that was lava.
Anything that's standing on lava. Yeah.
I was really hoping you were like, I put a red gem on anything that was rock. And I was like, well, I didn't expect you to go that way with it. Really? The lava was there? No. These are rocks.
Not quite, but it's just so good. It's such a great game.
And you said you hadn't played it for a while, right? I do love that experience as well. Like, because we play a lot of games. There are games we love that we haven't played in years, right? And sometimes, like recently, I got asked to play Champions of Midgard at a convention.
Which I've never played,
Champions of Midgard, one of my it was top 10 game of all time for me. Because I love, again, that strategy, but also just mix it with some wild dice rolling. And,
I owned it for years.
Yeah, somebody asked me to play, and I was like, yeah, I love this game, but it's been like 3 years, so I hope it holds up. And it did. I had a great time, and I loved it that time, too.
Oh, that's such a great feeling. Yeah. And you're making me feel regret right now, because I had that game for so many years and never played it. Well, I sold it.
This is the first time during this podcast recording that I can teach you a game and you are not teaching me one.
Yes.
So I would love to teach you Champions of Midgard.
Cool. It's on our list, because I always wanted to play it, and I feel like I always knew I would love it, but I just never got around to it.
That's
never
fair.
got around to it.
Yep, there's too many games.
Too many games and too many bones. But yeah, Too Many Bones, Unbreakable.
Cool.
Super cool. Rejuvenated my love of Too Many Bones. And I'm just like so impressed with what they do design-wise, again, with that space of that battle mat.
Yeah.
And how many different creative ideas and funny encounters you have and so much variety.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, for people who aren't familiar with this game, there is like a learning curve.
Yeah.
They've gotten better with each release about, making it more accessible for people to get into. And also they have fantastic player aids.
Cool.
Which, if that's something you don't like, you might not want to play this. Like, but you will be like referencing your menu.
I thought when you said if that's something you don't like, I was like, I hate player aids. Don't you hold my hand. Don't help me play this game. I could do it. I'm a big boy.
Hey, maybe some people do.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say related to Too Many Bones is I bought the brass mags. So usually your gear lock when you're moving around the board is just like a chip and you're like, that's my gear lock.
Yeah.
But they made a set of these magnets that are magnetized to these premium chips.
Sure.
And they're so nice. And
yeah.
And my friend Steven, who I was playing with at first, was like, oh, I'm not going to get those, blah, blah, blah. He bought them while we were playing. He's like, okay, these are awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sold. And then vice versa, I ended up buying a dice roller he had from Chip Theory. It's like a portable one. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is bad. We're both spending money here. But anyway, that's why I was like, I have to put this on my 10x10 because I want to play it more.
Cool.
I want to show you.
Please.
I have so much content to explore that I haven't, and I just love it.
Nice.
Cool. So what else have you been playing, Grant?
So, yeah, I'll bring the second one I'm going to talk about from my stuff I've been really enjoying recently. In the month of July, I've been playing a bunch of Evenfall.
Wow.
I really like it. I like engine building games in general. And so a game where you can just put a bunch, a game that you're doing a bunch more stuff at the end than you were at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's a fun arc, right? And Evenfall is very much like that. At the first round of the game, you're like, I feel like I'm not doing anything right now. And at the end, you're like, no, I'm not going to pass. I'm doing this now.
And I'm doing that.
And I'm doing this. And I will never pass. This game will never end. And so,
totally.
Yeah. So I've been playing that a couple of times. And, for anybody that doesn't know, it is a cool theme and cool artwork, though I don't know that the theme is like, that forward in the game. But you are witches and building a witch's coven, but it does have great artwork in the game. You're doing a mix of worker placement stuff and then engine building stuff with the cards that you are able to get from your worker placement and build from the resources that you have and stuff like that. There's a lot of really interesting timing choices in the game because you will have both an inner circle and an outer circle, and the cards that you have built in your outer circle will be able to harvest and get you more resources, but they don't score you any points, and you can't put workers on them to get the special abilities that they have. You can move them down to your inner circle, and now they don't produce anything in the harvest, but they're now oftentimes a new spot to put a worker. They're going to score
your
points
elders,
for you and stuff like that. Yes, exactly. And so I just think that timing choice of like, I want to harvest first, but then I need to harvest and then try to move it down so that I can add an extra worker here for this special ability. And there's definitely just a lot of cool special abilities. Word of warning to anybody that wants to play this game, there is a decent amount of reading to do on the cards and stuff like that. So that, there is, again, a little bit of a learning curve. But like we were talking earlier, you can do one thing on your turn.
Yeah.
I love a game where there's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of options, but you can only do them one on a turn. Because I still feel like Evenfall, though it is a probably like a medium plus weight game, it's still in that medium range, but maybe at the higher end of that medium weight.
Sure, yeah.
it's still your individual turns are short.
Yes.
Right?
Snappy.
I'm doing one thing on my turn, boom, I did it, now it's next turn.
Activate this card.
Yep.
Let's this worker get this.
Yep.
Keep moving.
So there's not a ton of analysis paralysis. There's enough time sort of in between your turns that you should be thinking about what you're doing
you want to do,
before it gets back around to you and stuff like that. So again, a lot of interesting choices, a lot of interesting strategy, but each individual turn is pretty fast. And I love the artwork and the look of the game as well.
Same here. Like that was actually a game that just before Essen last year, I think maybe, was it Rado, I think, had a video where Evenfall came up, and it wasn't even on my radar.
Sure.
And then I was like, ended up being like one of the games I was looking most forward to playing. I played it while I was there.
Nice.
Really enjoyed it. 3-player game. I played it at BGG Con, and then I probably played it about 4 or 5 times, and
nice.
I really, every single time I play it, I really enjoy it, and I love that like inner circle versus outer circle decision. I like that the player boards can be played asymmetrically.
Sure, yeah.
The little witch meeples are adorable, and the elder meeples. And I do like that the way they do the battle phase, where it's like you can bid more mana and guarantee that you'll get something, even if you don't win the overall fight.
It's almost like kinder battling,
it's
right?
Nice, yes.
Like there are, if you enter the battle with a certain amount of mana, you're going to get rewarded, regardless of whether you win. Now, if you win the battle, you'll get better rewards and even more rewards, but there's still a reason to enter even if you're not going to win.
Yeah, so. And I know this is something that I think is still kind of new in the US.
So it is. In the US it only actually came out in May, I believe. So I do a video every month on the best games coming to retail.
Oh, cool.
So I'm very plugged into when retail releases are happening. So it just had its retail release. I'm trying to remember. It was either May or June.
Okay.
So it's actually, so that's why I only got it now, because it's just actually hitting the North American market now.
Now, let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the way the cards feel?
The way that, like, in your hand?
Yes, in your hand.
I did not have a problem with them.
Really?
But I'm also not very precious about stuff. So I could have very much not noticed anything.
For whatever reason, I played that, like, when I got my copy and I'm, at our hotel in Essen, and I could not stand the way the cards feel.
Yeah.
Like, they have this matte, like, newspapery finish. They're not bad quality, but for me, I don't like the way they feel, and when I'm trying to draw them, so I had to sleeve it.
To me, that just sounds like maybe the witches put a hex on you. So
maybe it's that. Maybe it's that. But there's also an expansion coming that I'm excited about. I think this year at Essen, they have an Evenfall expansion.
Nice.
Good. That's awesome. I'm glad you got to play it and liked it.
I've been enjoying it a lot.
Awesome. So that is Evenfall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the second game I'm going to mention is a new game that just arrived. I don't know offhand when it came out. Maybe it was a year or two ago, but it's called Banners.
Oh.
Have you heard of Banners?
I've heard of it. I've never played it before. Yeah.
So this is a game that's designed by and published by, and the art is also by Jason Glover. And his publishing company is called Grey Gnome Games.
Okay.
Grey Gnome Games. And it's a small indie publisher, like where you get his games printed at GameCrafter.
Oh,
they're on
interesting.
GameCrafter. So I was actually going to get this game he made called Ironhelm, which is a solo dungeon crawl game, because again, I'm into these adventure games right now. And I happened to see this other game, and I just looked at the description. I was like, that sounds cool. I'll, add it to the cart. And I got it. It's in this small box, and I got the opportunity to play it last night, and it's very cool.
Nice.
It's very cool. It plays with 2 to 4 players, and it's a tile placement area control game with a scoring system that reminds me of if Arboretum and The King is Dead had a baby.
Okay.
Have you played either of those?
No. I mean, I know them.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
We got to get.
We got homework.
I got
to do.
both of those. Yeah. We got to play some games together. That's the point. But basically, you have. So it's all card based. Even though I said tile placement, you're placing cards like tiles, sort of, onto a shared board. But the way you build out the quote unquote board is there's going to be a starting location card that's slightly bigger than these other 12 location cards. And there are 3 different starting location cards in the game, and each one on the back will tell you how you're going to kind of place cards around it to like form the I guess to trigger the end of the game.
Sure.
It's slightly different for every location. But we played the, introductory, like, hey, if it's your first game, try this one. And the way it works is you have location cards is 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm trying to picture it. But so coming above the central location card, you have 3 location cards.
Okay.
Like they're little square cards. Then you have 3 below, 3 going to the left, 3 going to the right. And we're going to be playing cards inside, like in these quadrants. And the way it works is the top area is going to have, basically there are going to be 6 cards in each quadrant at the end of the game.
Okay.
And players are going to be playing 1 card at a time into these different quadrants. And there are like some starting locations where you can like always play a card into a starting location or play adjacent to a card that's already out. And it has to be orthogonally adjacent. So in this game, you have 5 different factions. This is when it gets The King is Dead, like, because you have these different factions and none of us really like control, like, I'm not the green faction, you're not the red faction. We're all influencing the value of these factions at the end of the game. But then it's when we scoring is at the very end of the game. Each player is going to have 3 cards left in hand, 3 faction cards. And that is going to dictate what you will score points for or what you won't score points for.
It reminds me a little bit, I don't know if last year you played Dawn of Ulos from Thunderworks games.
I think I would like that,
I really liked that game. But it was a similar one where it's almost like you were gambling on the stocks of these different factions as they rose and fell, but you didn't actually control any of the factions.
Right. So you have a hand of cards, and they're all these faction cards, right? They're colors, but there's also like a little shield or icon that's associated with each one.
Yeah.
The cards are valued 1 to 6. And so at the end of the game, we're going to evaluate each of those initial 12 location cards I told you about. And what you're going to do is look at the entire column, if it's a column one, and see which faction had the highest value, like was the strongest, and that faction is then going to get that scoring card. And so you're doing this for 12 cards, and the location cards have either 1, 2, 3, or 4 victory points.
Okay.
So you're really trying to, not only like manipulate, but you want to watch and see like, oh, it looks like turquoise is going to be winning that 3-point card.
Sure,
Maybe I want to make sure I hang on to a turquoise card by the end of the game and everything.
Yeah, that sounds unique.
Well, there are a couple twists.
Okay.
So in addition,
it's even more unique.
Yeah, exactly. In addition to the faction cards that range from 1 to 6, there are these little bronze coins, and in this game, because it comes from Game Crafter, they're like 3D printed little coins, but each location gets one of those, and each location also has a little symbol, an item. And if you happen to be the first person to play a card from your hand that has the item that corresponds to the row and or column, you get to get these bronze coins, and they're also worth points at the end of the game. So sometimes you're deciding to play a card because you want to get the coin before your opponents. Then there are 2 special cards in the deck. 2 special types of cards. There are multiple versions of them. there's a hag card. A hag is no faction. It's a value of 0. But when you play a hag, you get to move the hag.
Okay.
So there's a little hag mini that's going to be like moving around these different locations. And once she stops on a location, you can then move one of the cards in that row or column to a different space.
It's kind of sad. No faction for the hag because nobody loves the hag.
Nobody loves the hag. Nobody loves the hag. But it's cool because it gives you a way to kind of move stuff that's already on the board. And also, I don't know, maybe just throw a 0 card that you know, for the area majority scoring.
Sure.
And then there's like a troll that lets you, also counts as 0, but lets you pick up a coin from any card, pretty much. So there's some special cards, but you're basically going to be playing cards one by one, and then until you finish the pattern and everybody has 3 cards left in hand, and then you're going to score all the regions, all the locations, like check every location, see which faction it belongs to. So maybe green's worth 10 points at the end of the game, blue's worth 3 points, red's worth 7 points, who knows? Yeah. But here's the kicker. You ready for this?
I am.
Here's the kicker. The only person that can score the points of a faction is the person who has the highest value of that faction's card still in their hand.
Okay.
So if you and I both see green is doing really well, and you end up holding on to a green 3, and I end up holding on to a green 5, sorry, Grant.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow, you just invited me over to your house just to play me like that? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Pretty much. Yeah. That's exactly it. Now, you could hold on to 2 green cards that maybe total up to be higher.
That's what I'm going to do. In this hypothetical scenario, that's what I'm going to do.
All right, so you win green, fine. Yes. But then I win red and turquoise.
Okay, that's fine. I wanted green.
So you got 10 points and I got 12.
Okay, I still got green, you know?
Well, yeah, we'll see about that. We should play this, though.
All right, sounds cool.
But yeah, it's really good. Like, I love these kind of games where you have that. Like, I love area majority scoring, but I also like end game scoring where it's like, I need to hold on to something and hopefully
hope it's worth
outsmart you.
Yeah.
I'm going to outsmart you.
Yeah. I'm clever. It's not going to be that easy.
And these cards, for whatever reason, feel really great. Like,
they don't feel like newspaper cards from Evenfall.
They don't feel like newspaper cards. It's like the opposite. They're almost like embossed.
Okay.
And the art is really, really cool because it's like the cards have a background of a solid color, but then like this black and white inking of like, it's a really cool art style. I like it.
Nice.
But yeah, this is a game called Banners. I just recently heard of it.
Cool.
And I really like it. And it's probably one I'll bring with me to Gen Con just because it's so small.
Sure.
It does take up a little bit of space because you're going to be like building out this grid of cards, but it's cool.
Sounds interesting. I'm in.
Yeah, I look forward to beating you.
I look forward to taking green.
Okay, and then there's just one other game I just want to give a very quick shout out to. There's a game called Dungeon Degenerates Hand of Doom. I showed it to you because it's on the table.
It's a great name.
I had to leave this out on the table because the art is so wild and psychedelic and punk rock. Yeah. And I love it, but I think people are going to love it or hate it.
I agree. It's either you're going to be like, whoa, this is like nothing I've ever seen, or you're like going to be like, why are you assaulting my eyes?
Exactly. So this is a game that came out in 2017. It's designed by Eric Rady, and Sean Aberg does the art, and the art is a huge part of it.
Sure.
So this is an adventure, a cooperative adventure, kind of like RPG style game where you're in this like dark fantasy realm, and each player is going to be an adventurer, but you're an escaped criminal. And every one of these adventures you can play, again, similar like Too Many Boons, they have different flavor to them. It's hilarious. And nice. And you're just basically, you have some mission that you're trying to achieve as a group, and you're going to be moving around this really psychedelic looking map, and you're going to be fighting monsters. You're going to be trying to get skills. You're going to be rolling dice to do checks, skill checks and such. Nice. And then like drawing encounter cards, and like there are so many cards in this game. But anyway, I just want to give it a brief shout out because it's on Kickstarter they have like new expansions for it, and it'll be on Kickstarter between July 30th and August 16th.
Okay.
And I have not had the chance to play this game fully, again, because we're recording this earlier than usual, but I've been learning it. I've been like looking through cards.
It does look very striking on the table.
Yeah. And I really, I'm so excited about it. Do you ever have a game that you get excited just as you're learning it?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Like you read the rule book and you're like, oh, I'm going to like this.
Yeah.
That happens,
I've just kind of had that. And again, this is a game that I've found from a YouTube channel called The Dungeon Dive.
Okay.
And again, I'm going to do an episode at some point on like my favorite adventure games, but I'm just right now in a very exploratory kind of curiosity phase with these kind of games. And
with adventure games?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I really enjoy some of these wild stories, and just the fact that how these guys made all of these cards that like make every game feel completely different.
Sure.
And I guess another thing I'll mention style-wise about this game is like you have 3 phases to each turn. There's like a map phase, a danger phase, and a counter phase.
Okay.
And it's like you're usually going to move. You can split up your party like it's co-op, but we could all move together, which is going to, I think it makes it slower for moving, but then better for fighting and stuff like that. Or you can split up like, oh, maybe 2 people go here, 2 people go here, and we try to, do this. But you have like each adventure has these tokens that are like, when you move, you have to say if you're moving cautiously or bold.
I'm bold. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And there are, different impacts of how you can move if you're taking a bold stance versus a cautious stance. And there's something like that similar for combat and everything. But I'm just like blown away by all of it feels like a work of art. That's what I think I'm just so impressed by. And
you realize how much work has gone into creating something like this, for sure. It is impressive.
Absolutely. So anyway, if you are someone who's into like adventure board games or just something different, like with really psychedelic art, you should check out Dungeon Degenerates. And I'm like really stoked to play it, and I will talk about it more after I actually play it a bit. Cool. And now a word from our sponsor. Welcome to Arco, Massachusetts. It's the height of the roaring 20s. Think fabulous flappers, trigger-happy gangsters, and a distinct lack of smartphones. There's trouble around every corner, and today's headline is all about missing people, emptied graves, and baffled police. Only you and your allies have what it takes to get to the bottom of this series of dastardly crimes. Sound familiar? Edge Studio has adapted the Arkham Horror Night of the Zealot campaign scenario to be a perfect introduction for newcomers looking to dive into the world of tabletop RPGs. No prior knowledge or experience needed, the Arkham Horror RPG starter set is designed to be accessible to everyone. This guided investigation works with you step by step to learn the rules quickly and jump right into play. Each adventure is crafted to be played in 1 hour for a fluid and flexible gaming experience. And the box is absolutely packed with tactile components, including physical evidence, puzzles, maps, and more. So if you've ever thought about trying tabletop role-playing, the Arkham Horror RPG Starter Set is the perfect way to start your journey into a new hobby. And it's available at local hobby stores now. Gen Con releases!
Here we go!
Are you ready? So, I told you I was going to cheat, right?
You did tell me you were going to cheat. I didn't really know what that meant since I'm like, are these things that are coming out at Gen Con 2025? Is that how you're cheating? What are you cheating?
You never know with me, Grant.
Yeah,
you never know.
You're a wild card.
I have some honorable mentions, and then one of my 5, because we're technically doing a top 5 games.
And I will tell you, for me, these are games that are like released at Gen Con. You can buy them, not games that you can demo at Gen Con.
Correct.
Like, there are cool games that you're going to be able to demo that you won't be able to buy, but that's
what can
that's
we
not
buy?
on my list.
We got to spend
Get
some
out
money.
of here. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let you kick off your list, and I'll go more into...
Well, how many honorable mentions do you have? I'm like, I could do honorable mentions too. You said we're doing 5. How many are you honorable mentioning? 10 more? What are you doing?
Okay, there's a handful of honorable mentions. So why don't you go ahead and give some honorable mentions first?
Okay, sure. How about I put together like my top 10 games that I was excited for at Gen Con.
Yeah, what are the 5 that are not on your list for this?
Here's a few that aren't. Because I Am Who I Am, the cat mitt game is one of my honorable mentions. You literally put on oven mitts and then bop this cat toy around and have to get a treat out of a cat toy. And it is dumb and it is silly and you're welcome, everybody. So it's just, I mean, there's literally not much else to say about it except for that. It is exactly what it sounds like. I'm really excited that Gateway Island from Van Ryder Games exists. I don't know if you've heard of this one.
There are
21 mini games in Gateway Island, and every one of them teaches people about major types of board games.
Whoa,
the whole idea of it is to be an introduction to the hobby of board games. And if you're like, I don't know what kind of games I like, play Gateway Island, and then you can go,
Discover.
I really like area control. I really like drafting. I really like...
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm very much about just games that can help grow the hobby and games that can get people into the hobby. And this is like one that I feel like I'm going to recommend to a lot of new gamers, just being like, try this, and then you can really help get to know what you want to explore more.
Yes, and then this is why I'm so happy that we're doing this episode together, because I was like, I know Grant's going to tell me about some games that I wasn't even thinking about.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the cat mitt game is not on your hype list? Is that what you're saying?
It just didn't make the cut, just barely.
Another honorable mention for me is Jewels for the Emperor Penguin. Never
heard of it.
Yep, exactly. So I'm bringing some of the ones I'm about to do. You will have heard of. Okay. But Jewels for the Emperor Penguin is a game that I made a video for their Kickstarter, and I got a chance to check it out at PAX Unplugged in prototype form this past year, and really just fell in love with it. If you like a family weight game, if you like that sort of stuff, it's interesting choices, plays in 30 minutes, and it looks really fun. It's a modular board. It's all these tiles, but then you are moving your penguins up these tiles and gaining gems. But the most fun and interesting part of the game is you can create these like penguin bump chains.
Ooh.
You have dice, and the number on the dice are going to be associated with the number of the penguin you can move. You've got 1 to 5. But let's say you have your 1 penguin, and then below it you have your 2 penguin. Well, if I have my 5 is bigger than my 2 and the 1, so I can move on to where my 2 is, bump my 2 up, which is going to bump my 1 up, which is going to get me stuff higher up the board, which is more valuable. And so you're all trying to just set up these like bump chains all over the board.
Penguin
and
bump
stuff.
chains.
Yeah. And then ultimately you're just gathering gems and selling them for points. You know, you're using gems to get cards, and all that stuff is decently standard, but it's a great like 30-minute family weight strategy game.
Cool.
I'm excited for Café Baras from Kids Table Board Games.
Oh, yeah.
Partly, I actually don't know that much about how Café Baras plays, but it's from the same publisher and designer of Maple Valley and Creature Comforts.
Creature Comforts. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, what is her game?
I loved both Creature Comforts and Maple Valley. And the whole idea of this one is it's a bit of a smaller box game from that design team and publishing team. At Café Baras, you are capybaras running a coffee shop. And I think it's a lot of order fulfillment and stuff like that. But, you know, your capybaras running a coffee shop. That's the main draw right there.
I actually played a little teaser of this at PAX Unplugged. Roberta Taylor was there, and Burnt Island Games /
Kids Table Board
Games. I was like KTBG. Yeah, KTBG. Had a little like pre-PAX party thing, and they were showing off some of their games. And I think, Roberta gave me a little, like kind of a sampler of it. Yeah. And it was cute. Like I played it in the hotel lobby with my friend Roberto. Roberta gave me this, and I played it with Roberto.
Yep.
But I thought it was cute. Yeah, it's very like light, but again, in that like cozy world that she likes to create, and she does so well with, you know?
So those are my honorable mentions right there. We'll just throw a few out.
Okay, and don't react if any of my honorable mentions are on your real deal list.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
I won't tell you.
Okay.
I'm a book of stoicism right here. All right, no reaction.
Okay, so considering the very last episode of the BGG podcast, or the previous one to this, I had Jackie Fox on, and we were talking about music-themed board games, and we talked a bit about Rock Hard 1977.
Oh my God! No, I'm just joking.
I'm very excited about it, but I wanted to give myself an excuse to talk about other games too.
Sure, that's fair.
There's a game, speaking of, I always try to find the games that are going to be available at Gen Con, and I found this game, and I don't know if it's going to be available or not. It struck me as funny, and I was almost going to tell you, like, hey, let's pick out our, like, the funniest sounding one on the list. Battle Dentale.
I don't know that one.
It is a 2-player kind of abstract strategy game where you're either going to play as Gumrot the Goblin or Toothache the Troll, and you are trying to collect teeth from a jawbone or something.
This is the dream of dentists everywhere. Now dental offices will have this in their waiting room for you to play.
Fateforge Chronicles of Khan is an app-driven kind of like action-adventure.
Yeah, if you're into adventure games right now, I feel like Fateforge is for you.
Yeah, and it was not last year at Essen, the year before. Matt and I demoed it together, and we had just such a great time.
Cool. Yeah, I like the folks at Mighty Boards too.
Yep. And then there are a couple games I'm mentioning because I've already played them that I really like them a lot. Like I love Rebel Princess, and there's a Rebel Princess Deluxe version that's going to be there.
Nice.
That's probably one of my most played trick-taking games in the past, like since Essen.
Sure.
Then I also just found Eric Martin posted that Wilmot's Warehouse is coming out. Now, this will not be at Gen Con, but it's available for pre-order, and I think the pre-orders are shipping like the week of Gen Con or after.
Okay.
But this is a cooperative game. Oh, you're going to love this. I'm just realizing how much you're going to love this game.
Okay.
It's based on a video game, but it's a cooperative game where we're placing tiles on a board, and there are all these tiles with this like kind of abstract art. And when we take a tile, we have to like basically create a story, because we're going to put that tile face down. And then you're going to go and you're going to take a tile, and we're going to make some story like, oh. And
I'm continuing the story that you've started.
Because we're trying to remember where all of these tiles are.
Yeah, I think I've heard. It's almost like you're creating like a mnemonic memory device, but with the stories that you're telling. Yeah, interesting.
And I played it at BGG Con. This is coming from CMYK.
Yeah, which
James
I love
Nathan,
a lot of their games.
Yeah. James Nathan had a prototype of it at BGG Con last fall, I believe. And I just loved it. Like, it was just so fun, because it's like, how are we ever going to do this? Like, we're not going to remember this. And then we just start, because at the very end of the game,
and you're like, oh, the baby was over here.
Exactly. But the baby that threw up on the doctor, just crazy things. And when you're playing, like, there's some twists in there too, but like when you're playing, you're just like, I don't know how we're going to like remember, because at the very end of the game, you have like a 5-minute timer, and you need to like reveal everything and call out exactly what it is. It was really cool. It was really cool. So I'm excited about that. And that's going to be in your wheelhouse too, for like the length of time. It's co-op.
It sounds
later.
fun. No, yeah.
Pirates of Maracaibo.
Yep.
Just good. Big Alexander Pfister fan. I picked this one up at Essen and only played it once, but like we really liked it.
Sure.
Galactic Renaissance.
Yeah.
New game from the designer of Inish. I've played this now a couple times. I want to play it a couple more times. I'll probably talk about it at some point. But I
do think it sounds interesting with like the area control, but no combat. And stuff,
and the deck building is really, really neat in it as well.
Yeah,
and it also has like this varied scoring. I like it. I'll say I like it. I want to play it more though, and I'll probably talk about it at some point. Undaunted 2200 Callisto. I can't talk today. I've played it. Love it.
Okay.
And that would be probably super high. I think they're going to be selling some there.
Yeah, I think they will be selling some there. It comes to retail in October.
I love it. I'm just going to text you sometime and be hey, Grant, when's this game coming to retail?
I have a whole spreadsheet with hundreds of games on there and all when they're coming.
That's super handy.
Yeah.
And the last one is like, this would have been the game that I'm looking forward to most.
Okay.
And I am looking forward to it most for everyone else, but I have been fortunate enough to play it 10 times, and I've started a campaign, and it's so good. I never get tired of it. It's Arcs.
Okay.
So,
one note for people out there who want to get this at Gen Con.
Yes.
They will have the base game available for sale and some of the small expansions, but they will not have the campaign expansion.
Oh, they won't have the campaign box is big.
The campaign box won't be for sale at Gen Con. It will be, it will be available in October, but I did confirm that with Leader Games like 2 days ago. So they will have the base game and some of the small expansions for sale there.
Yeah.
They will have limited copies each day. So if you want it,
I need to get the miniatures for it.
Sure.
That's what I need to get. But I just love it. Like every game feels so different, especially when you play with the leaders and lore.
Yeah.
And then, I'm just one game into my first campaign, and it's crazy. Ugh,
nice.
Cole is such a freaking brilliant guy. I love it. And like I said, that would have been my number one game that I'm most excited about if I didn't already have it. And so
fair.
That's that. So let's get 5.
Okay, this is our 5. Our 5 games we're talking about.
Are yours like ranked by like your excitement
mine
level?
are.
Yep, me too.
Mine are ranked. What kind of a top 10 list would it be, or top 5 list? Be like, I did these by alphabet, but by the last letter in the first word.
Sometimes it's good to do it alphabetically.
5, Nestlings from Tangerine Games and Lucky Duck Games. If you know, Lucky Duck is doing a lot of, they're picking up like successful Kickstarters and releasing them to a wider audience and things like that. So this is a game that was on Kickstarter at one point and is fulfilling now. And then Lucky Duck is sort of helping it get it to a wider audience. It's thematically, you are, tiny birds, and you are, feeding your nestlings in different biomes on the board. Oh. It is a dice placement game. You will be rolling your dice, and it will have different biomes on there, and then you can place your dice in different biomes to draft resources from those biomes. So if you go there first, you're going to draft first, unless somebody puts extra dice there, right? If I really want the first pick of stuff from that biome, I can then put 2 dice there and use it like that if I want to. It's got really great artwork. It's got a really great graphic design, just the color scheme and all that. I had a chance to actually check this out at a small convention in Boise. I was a special guest at a convention in Boise last summer, and they were there. I think it was on Kickstarter at the time, and so they had it there showing to people, and I got a chance to like sit down and check it out a little bit. And it's it's one of those sort of like medium weight games, but at the low end of medium weight.
Sure.
You could probably play this in an hour, even maybe 45 minutes and stuff like that, but still got some strategy and decisions in it.
Very
for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nestlings.
Yeah.
I can't even picture this.
Yep.
I'm excited to check that out.
It's one like as soon as you look at the board and stuff like that, you'll be like, oh, this looks great.
Cool.
Just the colors and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, well, my number 5, and this actually just popped on my list today. It was kind of...
Whoa, you making last minute changes over there?
I was making just right now.
Yeah.
No, but it did, I was influenced today a little bit. It's Cities. from DeVere.
I've played this a lot.
Oh, really? Okay. Steve Finn and Phil Walker Harding. Yeah, this is a very Grant game.
Yes.
2 to 4 players. City building game with cool components. It looks thinky.
It's
you tell
great.
me.
It's great. It is maybe lighter than some folks would be expecting. This is a game you can honestly play in 30 minutes, which is, I think, a real strength of it. It's a worker placement game, and what sort of makes it different than other worker placement games is there are 4 rows of things you can get.
Okay.
And you have to spend a worker in each different row. Every turn of the game, you have to do 1 worker in each of the rows. So every round, you're going to be getting 1 scoring card and 1 tile and 1 feature and a few houses.
Okay.
And so, I haven't seen that where it's like there are regions for your worker placement. And, if we're playing a 3-player game and you both go to get the tiles, well, I don't need to go there right now because I know that you can't go there again. So I'm going to go somewhere else to get the things that I want. And it has a bit of like a King Domino feel to it. If you're a fan of games like that, where there's that like...
Never played it, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
King Domino is, to me, one of the best like... introductions to board games, right? It's one I recommend to a lot of people where they're like, I want to try board games. What should I try? King Domino is a great intro game. And I think Cities is like that too. It's got enough strategy, it's got enough interesting choices, but this is one you could teach to your mom.
Cool.
You know what I mean? It's one you could play with
And she's
anybody.
visiting in a month, so maybe I will.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. I'm glad you've played it and could like, share some insight. Yeah, it was, I noticed a lot of people were kind of talking about it, and also I had a friend just tell me that he played it and had some really cool things to say. And I love that, like, under an hour kind of thinky game. I love the components for it. It just, like, like city building games are so cool because you start with, like, nothing, and then by the end you have this kind of creation, so no matter if you win or lose, it looks... You made something.
Yeah, it's one of those games I would say about it that I'm like, there's nothing new in the game, but the way they do it is done in a new way.
I like that.
You know what I mean? Like it's taking familiar stuff, but sort of mixing it in a different way.
Yes. Yeah. And that's actually kind of how I feel about Galactic Renaissance too, because it's like area majority is not new. Deck building is not new, but the way everything is working together has kind of a fresh feeling.
Yeah.
Cool. What's your number? Okay, so that was, what was that?
That was number
5.
Cities.
That was Cities, my number 5. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Reef Project from Board and Dice.
Nice.
One of the things about me, like we've already talked about it, is Board and Dice does a lot of great games, but a lot of them are too heavy for me, right? Like, I recognize Nucleum is a great game. I don't want to play it.
Yeah.
Reef Project is much more of a medium weight game from Board and Dice, and so I'm just excited that they're making some more games in that world. I also really like the theme. Coral reefs are some of our places with the most biodiversity in the entire world, and this game thematically is about working to save coral reef. I was an environmental science major in college, so I still like when that sort of stuff is represented in games. You are moving around a board. You are moving along these paths, going to different places, saving stuff. There's a couple of mechanical things in the game that it's almost, I feel silly that I'm this excited about it, but like just simple things where I'm like, why have this not been done before? For instance, you don't get your end game scoring objective cards at the beginning of the game. You get them halfway through the game.
Oh.
When somebody reaches 22 points, we all get to look at multiple endgame scoring cards and then keep one of them. Right?
Yeah.
Where I'm like,
I like that.
now I know what I might be able to... there are so many times at the beginning of a game where you're like, I don't know which one to keep. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
I don't know what I'm going for. I don't know how this works. And the fact that you could pick halfway through the game is so simple, and yet I've never seen it in a game before, right?
Yeah, cool.
And then I also like the sort of like light engine building aspect of it, in that there are these routes all over the board, and you can sort of build your little buoy on the route. And different routes, depending on their length, is going to cost a different amount of energy to build your buoy on it. But once a buoy is on a path, that is free for you to travel on for the rest of the game. And it also reduces the cost for everybody else because one of the little energy symbols has been covered up. So now instead of costing 4 energy, I put a buoy on it. Now it costs you 3 energy if you want to also build a buoy on that one. Cool. I don't even know if buoy is the right term, but that's what they look like. So, yeah.
This was almost on my list.
Okay.
Like, it was one that I'm like, I don't know. Only because, like, it looks really pretty.
It does.
But I looked at it and I'm like, is this the kind of game that I'll play once or twice, and then I'll be like, okay. You know, like,
all I'm hearing is Candice doesn't care about coral reef. Okay. No, that's fair.
That's actually what it is. I hate coral reefs. But I am very curious. Like, this is something I want to kind of check out and assess.
Sure,
to see if it's something I want to bring back. You know, I need to do a little more research because I'm trying to be good, Grant.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I mean, you saw the overflow board game barn situation.
I get it. I'm the same way.
Yeah, I gotta try to. You know, I still have games that I picked up at Essen that I haven't played. Believe it or not.
I believe it. It's a believe, not a not believe. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
What's your 4?
Cool. Wait, what was yours?
Reef Project.
Reef Project.
Board and dice.
I like to say the name after.
Sure, yeah.
And I've just like spaced out because I'm.
Yeah. What's your number 4?
I'm scatterbrained. My number 4 is Stalk Exchange.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of this?
I feel like I just recently heard of it.
This is a game designed by Christopher Ryan Chan, who's one of the designers of The Night Cage.
Ooh, I love The Night Cage.
Night Cage is good, right?
Yeah.
It's published by The Op, and it plays with 2 to 5 players, and basically everybody is taking on the role of a gardener, and you're trying to grow flowers and profits. And like, it's a kind of stock market-y game, because when the stock market crashes, you're going to see who has the most valuable stock portfolio.
Sure.
I like that. I like what they did there.
A lot of clever people in board games.
A lot of clever people. Did you write that joke?
No.
But I just love market manipulation games. Believe it or not, I have a game called Tulip Bubble in my board game barn out there.
Okay.
And I've had it for years and years and years. And I tried to get it to the table here and there, but for whatever reason, I haven't played it. But now, after I get Stalk Exchange, I'm going to play Tulip Bubble and then see which flower market manipulation game is better.
This is like, it's like a cage match. You have to play both of these and only one of you get to stay in the house.
Only one of you stays.
One of you leaves in disgrace.
There is only room for one flower stock market game in my collection.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know much about it. It looks cool from the pictures I've seen. And again, I like market manipulation and flowers.
Yeah.
So, Stalk Exchange.
Nice.
What's your number 3?
My number 3 has already been mentioned today. It is Rock Hard 1977.
Yeah!
I did a great job. I kept a straight face. I gave you no indication that was going to be on here. But, you know, again, I've talked about how I really like games that help bring different people into the hobby. And music is something that a lot of people love, right? And there aren't that many great music board games. There's a few, you know, but it's just not something that's that represented in board games. And so I love the idea of a strategic game set in the world of music. And you know this better than I do. It's, you know, was designed by someone who has intimate knowledge of the music industry.
She lived it. Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm sure that will, or at least I hope that will come through in the game, right? This insider sort of, this is what it is like to try to make it as a band, as a musician. This is the things you have to do. And the game really represents all of those different aspects of the music industry. You know, it's not just like, hey, we're making a great song. It's, hey, we're going on tour. Hey, we're marketing stuff. Hey, we're doing all this.
It's not a game that you could, where you just paste on the theme.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I'm really excited about it. Like, that's what, so Jackie was here last week, and we were literally talking about how the theme of music is very like kind of underrepresented in the board game world. But we're starting to see more and more
like,
games, and I love it.
I like Draft and Write Records from Inside Up Games.
One.
Yeah, that's a music themed sort of flip and write game, but it's really actually a draft and write game. You're drafting cards and then writing down. But I thought they did a good job with the music theme, and that one also sort of represents different aspects of the music industry.
Yes, which is so cool.
So yeah, and that was one of the things that drew me to that game too. And so now I'm looking forward to playing Rock Hard 1977. And I'll also say, I think DeVere, the publisher of the game, has a really good track record in that medium weight game category.
Totally.
I've loved the Red Cathedral. I love the White Castle. I liked Three Ring Circus. I liked, a lot of their medium weight games have all been hits with me. So I'm they've got the benefit of the doubt from me, and that I'm willing to try sort of any medium weight game from them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're not the first person who told me about Draft and Write Records, by the way, that I need to try also.
I have it if you want to try it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we have to play games together.
Yeah.
This is the start of something new. Dude.
Yeah.
I love it. All
right, so yeah, that was my number 3, Rock Hard 1977 from DeVere Games.
Oh, I just remembered. I was going to say the other cool thing you were talking about, like different music games that are, tackling the theme from a different approach. It's just like nature games, right?
Sure.
We have games about trees, birds, mushrooms, going through the forest, climbing mountains, all sorts of things. So I like that too. And there's like Luthier is coming, and it's like all about making instruments. Yeah. So anyway, I'm excited for the music board game renaissance.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. All right. You ready for my cheat here?
I am. Oh, this is a cheat. I was ready for your number 3.
Yeah, my number 3 is a cheat because it says Candice is number 3, card games. So I'm going to mention a couple card games that I'm excited about. And yes, I bundled them together. The first one is Murray, the A-hole frog.
Oh, man. I will tell you, this is a game I know zero about and want to play it simply because of the name. Like, there are not many games that I feel like that about, but I'm like, I saw that and I was like, sold.
Yeah,
I want this. I don't care what this game is. Murray the A-hole frog is a game for me. Yeah.
So this is designed by Jenna Felly and published by Devious Weasel Games. And Devious Weasel Games and Jenna make some of the most unique, just interesting like themes, like the way the games feel to play them. So like weird and amazing. And I actually got to play a prototype last year at Gen Con of Murray.
Really?
With Jenna.
That's fun.
It's super fun. I don't know exactly what all has changed in the past year, but it's a set collection game and also a set destruction game because you're going to be playing all these different insect cards, like they're different types of flies, and then there's Murray. Well, we know Murray the A-hole frog is going to be trying to mess with your sets. It's called swarms. Your swarms of flies. You're trying to make these sets, and it just like whatever you could picture for a game that's about insects and set collection. It's just gonna be like have a twist, a special Devious Weasel twist, and I'm just so excited about that. Every game I've played from Devious Weasel Games and Jenna has been like just so cool and so different. I love, again, Dungeon Degenerates. I love how there are so many kind of like weird indie games out there,
For sure.
That's 3A.
Okay.
3B is Xylotar.
Oh, I love it.
You played it. Okay.
I've played it a ton.
I haven't played it yet, but I love it. This is Chris Ray and coming from Bezier.
Yeah, this is probably a game I've played like 12 times or something like that at this point. It's been one of my favorite card games of this year for sure. One of my favorite trick-taking games. It's really cool. It mixes deduction with trick-taking in a very fun way.
Now, have you played Magic Trick?
No.
Okay, because this game is a re-implementation of Chris's older game called Magic Trick.
Okay.
I have Magic Trick.
Oh, nice.
We should play it because I've never played it.
Okay, sure.
So I want to play them both, but I've heard nothing but great things, and I love the theme of this one.
And this is also a game that if I was trying to teach trick taking to people, this is a game that I feel like you could do that with, because the deduction is an easy enough sort of thing to wrap your head around, and the trick taking is fairly straightforward in it. And part of the reason I mentioned that is because, Bezier Games released both Xylotar and Sandbag at the same time. And Sandbag is very interesting, but I would absolutely never play Sandbag with people who don't actively play trick-taking games. And Xylotar, you definitely could.
Yeah, so. That's something I'm still learning how to gauge, because I like heavy games. I like weird trick-taking games that are like heavy trick-taking games, and I get excited and I tell somebody, hey, you want to come play a trick-taking game? And their head melts.
Yeah.
And my friend Jake's like, I don't like your esoteric trick-taking games. But there's definitely some that aren't for every audience.
Sure. Well, and it's just, I think some people, a lot of people grew up playing trick-taking classic card games. And if you don't have that background in trick-taking, it can be a weird sort of system to wrap your head around.
Sure.
Yeah.
But, so I'm glad you played Xylotar, and it's dope. So I'm excited about that. 3C is going to be Seers catalog.
Sure.
Another Bezier release. This one from Taylor Reiner. An almost shedding game where you're trying to get rid of almost all of your cards instead of all of your cards. I never played Of What's Left.
Okay.
Which this game is, I think, just a re-implementation of that one.
Sure.
I don't know if anything changed aside from the theme.
I don't know. I haven't played this one yet. Yeah.
Okay, but I hear it's great.
Yeah.
So you should be excited about this,
and it's also, got a bunch of dumb puns in it.
3D is The Gang.
Yep.
From Cosmos, designed by John Cooper and Corey Heath. 3 to 6 players. A cooperative version of Texas Hold'em.
Yeah.
Yes, I need that. I've been excited about this since I heard about it last year.
Sure.
The Gang and Cosmos is just, between Inside Job, The Crew.
Yeah, they do a lot of good stuff.
They're doing good stuff and kind of innovative stuff with trick taking, and I like that. So I loved The Crew, both versions. I loved Inside
Job as well.
And so The Gang better not disappoint me.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, 3E. I think I'm on E.
You got so many of these, you're losing track of them here.
I don't know if this game is going to be available at Gen Con or not.
Well, it's good you put it on the Gen Con list.
I hope it is. It's called Lone Wolves.
I don't know this one.
It's designed by Yasuyuki Nakamura, who's the designer of Trick and Trade, which is a trick-taking game I love. I can teach you that if you want to play it. And Anthony Perrone.
Okay.
And this is published by Wonderful World Board Games. It's a 2-player trick-taking game with area majority and shifting trump suit stuff, shenanigans. It seems cool. I hope to get a copy there at Gen Con. So that's nice. Lone Wolves. And that is my entire card game number 3 category. Murray the Ale Frog, Xylotar, Seers Catalog, The Gang, and Lone Wolves. Grant?
Yeah.
What's your number 2?
Well, my number 2, because I am not a cheater, is The Gang from Cosmos. And it is by itself in the number 2 position because I don't have a bunch of subcategories here. So that's why I was slightly quiet when you mentioned The Gang 30
Being
seconds
my
ago.
3D or 3E, whatever.
So I have actually had a chance to sit down and play a demo of The Gang. I have not played a full game of it, but I did. Okay. I demoed it at Origins, and the way it works essentially is, like you said, it is a cooperative Texas Hold'em poker game. you are doing all the things that you do in Texas Hold'em. You are getting 2 cards. There is a flop of 3 cards. There is a turn. There is a river. And at each point along the game, you are trying to predict with the other people who are playing who has the best hand versus who has the worst hand. And you can't say specific stuff, but you can be like, I'm really happy right now. I feel pretty good. And someone's like, okay, well, you take the 4. And another person is like, I'm crying on the inside. And you're like, okay, well, you can have the 1.
Oh,
and then you can
interesting.
change the tokens you're giving out. Only the last ranking matters, right? But you are sort of giving these tokens out along the way to try to garner information. Like, you know, once the river comes up, you're like, oh, I'm not as happy as I used to be.
Wow.
You know, and then you have to go, okay, well, do we want to give the 4 here, or are we gonna give the 4 over here? And
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it's interesting how they do it, a cooperative poker game. I'm always thinking about how to bring new people into board games, and Poker is a game that a lot of people know when they don't know any other game, right? Like, I played a ton of poker in college.
Did you win?
I'm the type of poker player that's often good enough to get second, never good enough to win.
Got it.
You know, like, that's kind of where I'm at. And so, yeah, I think this can bring more people into the hobby. I also think it's going to bring more people into poker, right? There are a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't want to have to, like, put on sunglasses and lose money to my uncle or whatever.
Let's work together.
Yeah. So the cooperative aspect of it, I think, is going to introduce a lot of people to poker as well. So it's one of these games that I'm like happy that it exists just for the hobby's sake, because I think it's going to pull a lot of people in.
Yeah, I can't wait to try. I'm very, very curious about it. And probably if I wasn't going to have 5 subcategories for my card games category, I probably would have picked The Gang is the one I'm most excited about.
Sure.
Yeah,
Nice.
out of all those. Cool. Well, my number 2, you ready for this?
I am.
Pagan, Fate of Roanoke.
Okay.
So this is actually a game that was originally released in 2022 by a German publishing company, Wormgold.
Okay.
It's designed by Kasper Christensen and Kar Storgard. And this is a 2-player asymmetrical card dueling deduction game.
Ooh, that's a lot of words.
Where one player is the witch and the other player is the hunter. And I posted about this game.
I think Capstone's bringing it, right? Yeah.
Yes, Capstone is bringing it.
Yeah.
Because I discovered this game 2 years ago, probably when it was coming out. And I tried to get it at Essen last year, but they didn't have any English copies. And I was so excited when I saw that Capstone is bringing it to the US.
Yeah, nice.
Because this is just like, I love 2-player card dueling games. I love games that have asymmetric gameplay and everything.
Yeah, I'm interested in how the deduction part of it works. So
yeah,
that sounds intriguing.
It, like, basically, as the witch, your objective is to collect enough secrets to perform a ritual so potent that the entire region will fall under your spell and Mother Nature will reclaim the island. And then the other player, the hunter, has to gather allies and support and bring the witch to justice before her fatal ritual comes to fruition.
Wow.
So I think it's neat too, because it's not just cards as far as I know. Like, I think there are other components to it, but it just looks great. Early on, what got me excited by it was that someone said it had some Netrunner feels to it. And yeah, so I'm like really, really, really excited to finally get my hands on Pagan, Fate of Roanoke. And speaking of themes, there's a renaissance of witch themes too.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah.
We're almost to a point where we could do a top 10 of our favorite witch themed games.
Yeah, that's funny.
All right, well, it's number 1 time.
All right, my number 1. Couldn't make your list because you've played it too many times. It is Arcs from Leader Games.
Great
You
number
really
one.
got to rub it in earlier about how many times you have played this game, and it couldn't make your list.
Yes.
Because you're
Got
just
'em.
having a great time playing it all the
Got
time.
him.
Yeah.
Got him. You know, this is what you get for winning the green and banners preemptively.
I have not played ARCs yet, but I am very excited to play it. You know, one of the things that I'm excited about is that the designer of the game is the designer of games like Root and Oath, which are all too heavy for me, right? Like, those are games where I respect that they are good games. They are not games I want to play.
Not your cup of tea.
I'm also like the person that's teaching games all the time, and I don't want to have to teach Root 4 times
Fair.
to a bunch of new players. Arcs is much more of a medium weight game, a game that's a little bit more in my wheelhouse. So I'm excited to play a Cole Whirly game that sort of fits for me. And also, we've talked, like, I love trick taking and I love space theme games, and now they're in the same game. So that seems pretty cool right there.
Yeah,
you know?
you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it. Yeah. I am a Cole Whirly fan. I am a heavy game fan. And I felt like even friends of mine who are like, some of Cole's games have kind of fell flat with them. I'm like, try Arcs.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like...
Do you feel like it's a little bit more accessible than some of his other stuff?
Yeah, especially if you play vanilla, like without any of the leaders and lore.
Sure.
I mean, they make it really cool because you have like... Now you have this like special ability, you know, and these... Because you have 2 cards that are kind of making up who you are in the game, there's so much variation. Like I've been logging plays for the past year, and when I log plays of this and we use leaders and lore, I always log each person's like leader and lore for the game.
Sure.
The leaders are cool because they have an ability, but they also have some kind of like weakness.
Okay.
And then the lore card is something else. So it's like you just have these really cool combos. And even just with that, like the leaders and lore cards, I was like, wow, this game is going to just keep on giving.
Sure.
And then I started the campaign and I was like, whoa.
There's even more stuff here.
Yeah. And it's really, really, really interesting. A little weird here and there. I love that you are always, like, the action just kicks off from the beginning. The variable scoring is awesome because it's like you're trying to figure out sometimes when to play certain cards, because if you have the initiative and you can set what's scoring, you usually want to be like ahead of other people, but then everybody else is going to be like, oh, well, now we're going to all compete for that. And they're just like, no 2 games of this game have ever been like the same or close to the same because of that. Like I've had a situation where all of the scoring objectives ended up on one condition, you know, or there was a game I played where only 1 scoring token out of the 3 ended up on a like objective in a round. And it was whoa, this is weird. Yeah. But it's very cool. And you're right. Like it's very medium in the sense that like the scoring objectives are like, who has the most of these resources or who has the most captives.
They're not going to break my brain.
They're not going to break your brain.
I like my brain intact, so I'm excited to play this one.
I hope you enjoy it. I love it.
I'm sure I will.
And I'm very excited to continue this campaign and see what happens. And then I'm also excited already to start another campaign because I'm like, it's going to be completely different because you have these like fates that you choose.
Sure.
Anyways,
nice.
I could gush more.
No, I mean, I'm excited. That's why it's number 1. I'm very excited to play it.
Cool.
Yeah. What's your number 1?
My number 1 is Gaia Project: The Lost Fleet.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I fell in love with Gaia Project last year.
Sure.
Just last year, I fell in love with it. And I've been so excited about this expansion, even though it's like Gaia Project's the type of game with all these asymmetric factions that I could, you know, I've not played nearly as many games as people who have been like hardcore about it since it originally came out. But I'm still very excited to have more and different options. There are 4 new factions. The new map layout is really cool. There are also new end of round boosters and scoring tiles and everything. And this is the reason, well, this is one of the reasons I put Gaia Project on my 10 by 10, but I really just like really enjoy playing it, and I want to play it more, and I'm really excited about this expansion. And this is another one that's Capstone in the US and Fjörlen Spiele in Europe, and it plays with, I mean, this is an expansion for Gaia Project, but it's designed by Helge Ostertag and Jons Drogmuller. So, that is like pretty much if it was Arcs and this are like
neck and neck.
All right. Yeah, neck and neck. But probably Arcs would have been, the highest. So you won by picking Arcs.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it.
And then in true fashion, I'm just going to quickly mention 2 other expansions. I forgot about this. But the War Chest Nightfall expansion, I have all of the other expansions for War Chest. How many have I played?
Yeah.
None.
Yep.
But I'm still
I got a couple of them
get
too.
them all. I got to get them all. And then I'm also excited about the War of the Ring, the card game expansion, Fire and Swords. But hey, I think I'm already ready for Gen Con. Like, I know the sensory overload we're about to dive into.
Sure. It's a lot.
Working myself up for it. I know it's going to be like a blur. It's going to be so exciting to see a lot of different people. If anyone out there is listening and attending Gen Con and you see either of us, please say hi.
Yeah.
We'd like to say hi.
I love giving out high fives.
Ooh, I'm going to give a high 10.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's doing a lot, but sure.
No, I won't be able to do that. I'll be carrying too many bags of games.
Yeah, seriously.
We'll stick to the high 5.
Yeah.
But anyway, Grant, I'm so glad that like we did this episode together. I knew like whenever we were going to do this, I was like, we should probably talk about party games because you're like, you are my go-to person.
I love party games.
Who loves party games? Who's going to tell me about the best ones, the worst ones?
Sure.
It's you. But I'm glad.
Can do another. I'll come back and do an episode on party games sometime.
I mean, you live right around the corner, so we'll have to figure that out.
Yeah.
But I love that you introduced me to some new games because of your list. And because we're different style gamers, or we have different wheelhouses.
Yep.
Well, we do have some overlap.
We do, yeah. We both like trick-taking games a lot. We both like, there's more overlap than not.
Yeah, we got a lot of overlap, yeah. But I'm excited to play some more games with you now that we're finally hanging out in IRL, not like in one of our places, because we see each other in LA at other events.
Yeah.
But
I do think it's funny with like these conventions and stuff like that. You have to go halfway across the country to see somebody that lives 15 minutes from you.
Totally.
So I'm glad to be over here too in real life as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Grant.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Board Game Geek podcast, produced and edited by Candice Harris. Special thanks to Matt Fonda for editing and mixing our music. Be sure to visit us on the web at boardgamegeek.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitch under Board Game Geek. You can reach us by email at podcast@boardgamegeek.com.